Jon is not here this week, but he recommended this story. So we're going to talk about it while he's not here to defend himself, because that's how I roll. And he shared it because, so the story is about online the rise in online piracy. And it comes up, we've talked about Netflix raising their prices and locking down plan sharing across households and adding advertisements. And Jon says all these things are doing nothing but driving piracy up. And I think this is a position that Peter also holds. I'm not going to speak for him. I will speak for Jon. It's totally fine. We'll have the conversation in a second. I actually have some thoughts to share as well. In fact, let's just jump into that on today's Not So Critical Update.
So go on then. Tell us, what do you think about this then?
Well, so the argument I always hear from Jon, certainly, and I think from you, is that the way streaming services are handling their pricing is driving people to piracy. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, yeah, it's a bit not slightly more nuanced, but okay.
How?
So what do you think?
What's the nuance?
God, yeah, quite aggressive there, Mike. All right, calm down.
Say something, Peter. Defend yourself.
Fucking right. The way that they're doing it is terrible, and that is driving people to piracy. Mm-hmm. I think it's the collective behavior, though, is the sort of nuance I was thinking of there. It's not like they're doing something wrong. It's the lack of partnership between them. The lack of interaction and the kind of which you've pointed out many times as being like it used to be in the cable times, which I never experienced. So,
because you said cable television is kind of a US thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely not a UK thing. Anyway, we didn't have that. We had Sky boxes. So, my family were never rich enough to have one of those. I always kind of thought the people who had satellite television were like the fancy people, go and watch around. They had like 100 channels. It was very exciting to hear about. But kind of weird now that we all have a billion things. Anyway, the cable situation never really occurred over here, but now it is happening. I can see how it would be like it used to be.
There were definitely groups of people who were into the satellite, and you'd get decryption decoder boxes, I think they called them. Where you could unscramble the signal coming from the satellite. And there were people who were super into that. Never, I think, was a huge market, but cable television was giant. And the issue was that the bundling. You would subscribe to cable television. Excuse me. You'd pay $80, $90, $100, $150 a month for this package that had all these channels, 95% of which you would never watch, look at, even be aware of.
Right.
And people would say, well, if I only watch ESPN and the CNBC, I don't even see him. Why don't you pick CNBC? I never watched CNBC. Then why can't I just pay for those two channels and nothing else? Why am I paying for all this stuff that I don't watch? This is the idea of bundling. You want it unbundled.
Right.
And the argument against unbundling is that the reason you can watch those channels is because the reason the individual channels exist is because they're being funded by the entire basket of channels. So if you just buy ESPN, you don't get access to the more niche channel that you might want to watch, or that some people watch. So they get all bundled together. And if you wanted to pick and choose, they would be more expensive individually, which is exactly what we're seeing now with the streaming providers.
So they were right all along?
Yeah, I think so. And the interesting thing that's happening now is people are saying exactly what you said, which is, well, now I want them to cooperate and I want them to bundle these things together more.
Yeah.
So we're going to be headed right back in the same situation where right now they are individually cheap, but you want them to be bundled. So before you know it, we're going to be paying $100, $120, $150 a month again to get a bundled subscription that has all the content.
Can't we have both worlds? Is it not possible to have
you
a
have
medium?
Both worlds now. You just can't have it for $15. You can have it for $100.
So I don't know if do we have this article in the lineup about the guy who kind of turned off all his devices and stopped paying for all the streaming services?
I think we did. I don't think anyone voted
Discord,
for it, though.
Which you should join Discord, and then you can help push articles that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Also, subscribe. We're very close to 300 subscribers. So.
What Peter just described is in our Discord server, we have a channel for article ideas. And the three of us, John, Peter, and I, as well as anybody in the Discord server, can post articles, which we discuss on the Discord server.
Discordies, I'm Mastodon, and I'm PyTest, and
great community developing over there on Discord. But we put all those story ideas into a spreadsheet, and then every week, John, Peter, and I vote on which of the stories we want to talk about, and that's how we come up with the rundown for the show. So we record all we select 7 stories a week. We record them all on the same day, and then block them out over the next week. So to tie it back to the rise in piracy, so I think John's position, and I think your position, is that the way these streaming services are handling their pricing and the fact that they're all unbundled like this is driving piracy up. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. Is that not a fair statement?
Well, so this article is saying that piracy is rising, which you could interpret as evidence for that position. What I'm saying is, if we look at streaming statistics, streaming is also going up. And I would argue streaming overall is going up more, and that the piracy is not an alternative to how do I want to say it? People are there's more piracy, but there's more streaming. Right? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
So no, I totally do. And you're right. It's a very good point, actually. Weirdly, Mike.
I accidentally stumbled into a good point.
Jesus, what's going on here? By the way, get well soon, John. We miss you, buddy.
Even though Peter and I both agree that you're completely wrong in this case.
Yeah.
And have no chance to rebut.
Wait, no, exactly. No, well, yes, just on principle, I would say that he's absolutely wrong. And I don't know if you prepared it, but we should probably bring Bitcoin into it just to make him happy. Probably make him feel better. Have we got a... There we go. There we go. I can see John lying in bed, sweating and feverish. There we go. And this is going to make him feel just a little bit better. So that's for you, buddy.
I'm sure that's what it's going to make him feel.
So I've got this friend, right? Good friend of mine. And he used to pirate quite a lot. But doesn't so much these days. Now he's in a position where he's signed up to a few different streaming services and is pretty happy with a lot of them. But he hasn't stopped pirating entirely because it's just so much more convenient, apparently, according to him, where, you could go and get anything you want and you download it and it's always available. It's not disconnected when you're on a plane or something, or your Wi-Fi goes down and you're not using your mobile data usage, and it's just kind of convenient and better in most ways. And even on channels or services where he's subscribed to it, like for Netflix and things like that, sometimes he even downloads stuff that's on there that you can legally watch. So I don't know. I think this. I don't know the solution to it, by the way. I don't know what they can do to fix this problem properly, unless they make it all free.
Well, how did it start? What was before LimeWire? Wasn't there something before LimeWire?
It was Napster? That was
Napster, yeah. That whole era.
It was Usenet. Like way back when there was Usenet and IRC, where you would people would exchange files directly between each other, and then there was FTP Wes servers and
that was
kind
all kind of niche still. You had to have some technical aptitude to get that, but once you had like LimeWire and Napster on the market, widespread piracy that kind of devastated the music industry for a while. And even still then, though, some of the research showed that people who pirated movies, kind of like your friend described, were more likely to buy more music. And
yeah, it's true. And there's been studies done that show that piracy actually helped a lot of channels be, there's some stuff that which wouldn't be known about unless people could get it in a central place via a pirate site. There's a lot of reasons why piracy doesn't actually. So also another side effect of piracy is that it kind of pushes the industry to innovate. We probably wouldn't have streaming services like we do now if it weren't for piracy being so much easier, because they wouldn't have had the incentive. Recently, I changed banks because I lost my card, and my real bank, my current bank, who I've had a bank account with since I was 3 years old, I had to cancel my cancel my card from overseas, and then that was on like a Wednesday, and then the following Monday they sent me a letter saying your card has been cancelled and we're issuing a new one to you, which got there yesterday. So it's like nearly a week. And if that was my only debit card, I would have been fucked. Yeah, so I signed up to a challenger bank, Monzo, pretty good. And they had sent me a brand new debit card in 2 days. And I had a full-on bank account. I could apply for a fucking mortgage with them if you like. So that kind of like frustration with existing services and the kind of pushes people to other things, which I think is going to force the normal banks to come up with new features. And they have started doing that. They're just monsters and dinosaurs. That's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, same thing in the streaming industry.
Yeah.
And I think, they're still making so much money though, right? They're still making just a shit ton of money. And it's like, I don't know.
Well, so not to, I don't know which side of this I'm on. I think one negative consequence of piracy is that it compounded the problem of the industry doing well, but the actual creators not doing very well. And I think this was much more pronounced in the music industry. I'm sure it still happens in TV and movies. But I think my sense is, and maybe this isn't even true, but that the piracy more directly impacted the musicians and performers than it did the industry as a whole. Just because the way those agreements are written. I think that's true. And my friends who are musicians told me that. I really feel like that was the sense of the time. I don't have anything references to cite for that. But my sense was always, if you can't sell, it's about adaptation, right? Yes, it's nice to be able to record something once and sell 1 million CDs and not have to do that again. But you can make money by going and doing a concert. Yeah, you only get paid for once, then you have to do it again, but there are ways to make money as a musician, even if people are pirating your music.
I never understood how the piracy industry was really harming the smaller musicians that much. This is probably just my naivety. Comment down below if you can explain this in more detail. But it felt like there was rarely a time that my friend would be downloading music from that was some unknown musician. It was mostly and if that ever did happen, there would be no way to get hold of that music any other way.
Yeah, I don't even know necessarily that it was the smaller musicians. I think even the bands that kind of had broken through, my understanding of the music industry is that the label and the record company gets a significantly disproportional share of the revenue from sales than the musician. So the piracy disproportionately affects the musician themselves, for what it's worth.
All right.
I had a very similar banking experience. The bank that we used to use for 20 years kept getting bought and sold, and we kind of got sick of it. But even after a couple evolutions of this, it was a bank where if I wanted to deposit a check, I had to go into the bank and sign a deposit slip and hand it to somebody across the counter. And finally, we were like, why the fuck are we doing this? We switched banks to a bank that I could walk up to an ATM and I could just jam cash into it and it would deposit it right into my account. I can take a picture of a check and it deposits into my account. So banking has gotten amazing.
It's weird that the US is still using checks, right?
Like, oh, really? What's the alternative? Well, I barely use checks, but it happens. I almost never use cash anymore. It's almost all.
Since we're talking about banks now and not piracy, one of the things I was for. So this happened like last week. I went out for dinner, and then the next day went to the airport and had literally been nowhere except the restaurant, home, and in the taxi. And in the taxi, I discovered I didn't have my wallet. So I knew exactly where I'd lost it. Anyway, it was in the middle of a trip to the US. That's why I was away last week. And so I was struggling to think, oh my God, how can I pay for anything? I had no debit cards. And I managed to transfer some of the cards onto the Google Wallet and be able to pay with the tap to pay thing, or we call it touchless, I think. God. Anyway, yeah, it's so handy. I don't think I ever need to carry a wallet anymore.
Just going to convert to that.
Seriously,
for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's so handy. And I get notifications on my phone, and I can like freeze a card from my phone. I can unlock from my phone. It's all great. And the only person that can use it is me with my fingerprint, or someone who knows the thingy. Yeah. So it's actually more secure than a debit card. And I don't know why I would carry around a debit card. You can just lose and someone can use it. So yeah.
So my final thought on the piracy topic is my friend was not necessarily a big piracy guy, but decided he wanted to try it because he had two friends who kept telling him how easy it was. So he got a VPN, downloaded some shows, and he immediately got cease and desist orders from ISP because despite his friend's insistence that it's so easy to set up VPNs, there still was some leak. However, in this case, he enjoyed the shows that he downloaded and ended up subscribing to the streaming service that carried him, and has been a happy customer of the streaming service ever since. So the piracy, in a sense, created a new customer for the streaming service.
Yeah. Thank you, Piracy.